nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I don't see that horse as it is now. I do not see that oak tree as it is now. I do not see that duck as it is now. I do not see that bamboo as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks, and we're ready here on Tuesday, January the 9th of 2024 to do Lesson 9 in A Course in Miracles workbook for students. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version. I see nothing as it is now. This idea obviously follows from the two preceding ones, but while you may be able to accept it intellectually, it is unlikely that it will mean anything to you as yet. However, understanding is not necessary at this point. In fact, the recognition that you do not understand is a prerequisite for undoing your false ideas. These exercises are concerned with practice, not with understanding. You do not need to practice what you already understand. It would indeed be circular to aim at understanding and assume that you have it already. It is difficult for the untrained mind to believe that what it seems to picture is not there. This idea can be quite disturbing and may meet with active resistance in any number of forms. Yet that does not preclude applying it. No more than that is required for these or any other exercises. Each small step will clear a little of the darkness away, and understanding will finally come to lighten every corner of the mind that has been cleared of the debris that darkens it. These exercises, for which 3 or 4 practice periods are sufficient, involve looking about you and applying the idea for the day to whatever you see, remembering the need for its indiscriminate application and the essential rule of excluding nothing. For example, I do not see this typewriter as it is now. I do not see this telephone as it is now. I do not see this arm as it is now. Begin with things that are nearest you, and then extend the range outward. I do not see that coat rack as it is now. I do not see that door as it is now. I do not see that face as it is now. It is emphasized again that while complete inclusion should not be attempted, specific exclusion must be avoided. Catch that? Complete inclusion should not be attempted, but specific exclusion must be avoided. Be sure you are honest with yourself in making this distinction. You may be tempted to obscure it. So don't try to say everything that you see, but just don't let there be anything that you're unwilling to say, I do not see this blank as it is now. I do not see that turkey as it is now. Whatever is in your field of vision. Okay, let's go look in our text reading. And we're ready for section 7 in chapter 1. Chapter 1, the meaning of miracles, distortion of miracle impulses. And before we get into that, what is going on around the world today from holidays and observances? Balloon Ascension Day. First balloon flight in the United States was on this day in 1793, but the first balloon that ever lifted people, which they lifted 2 people, was made out of paper and silk. And a couple people in France did it 10 years earlier on November 21st, 1783. International Choreographers Day. And, you know, choreography, the movement, bodily movement, like dance and Tai Chi is a moving meditation type of series of choreographs. Let's see, National Cassoulet Day. It's a slow-cooked French stew, and I may not be pronouncing it properly. National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, National Poetry at Work Day, National Shop for Travel Day, National Static Electricity Day. This could be a very shocking day for many of us. National Take the Stairs Day for health. Do that. It's a good thing. I do it most of the time, and I try to race whoever I'm with, see if I can get there before the elevator gets there. National World Nerd Day. Panama's Martyrs Day, and that's a remembrance of the January 9th, 1964 riot over the Panama Canal. The people there that lived there didn't have control of it. And there was a student riot where several of the students were killed by the Panama police force. I expect that was under U.S. control. It's not any longer, my understanding. Play God Day, which is mainly, do something to bless somebody like God does. Lets the sun rise on the just and on the unjust. Lets the rain fall on everyone. Doesn't matter how good they are or bad they are. And National Apricot or Apricot Day. The Prunus armenica. And the Prunus armenica. I found this on Healthline. Apricots are a great source of, I can't read my writing, antioxidants. Many antioxidants, including beta-carotene and vitamin A, C, and E. What's more, they are high in a group of polyphenol antioxidants called flavonoids, which have been shown to protect against illnesses, including diabetes and heart disease. Also may promote eye health, may boost skin health, may promote gut health, high in potassium, very hydrating when you're eating raw, and may protect your liver. And I found, like I said, I found that all on Healthline. What else? Anything else? Oh, and I want to take a look at another Pawpaw. And this is the, what is it called? Just a minute, let me turn to it. Out of Edible Landscaping, the Sunflower Pawpaw, which is another Asamina triloba. Corwin Davis from Bellevue, Michigan, named Sunflower from his collection, probably in the 1950s. It's reported to be able to produce fruit planted alone, a productive variety with medium-sized fruits, zones 5 through 8, spaced 12-foot circles. And when I looked on the actual website, Edible Landscaping's evidently updated that, and they say that it was Milo Gibson found it in Kansas in the 1970s. One of the largest fruited and most productive varieties and latest ripening. Still fruits when all others are gone for the season, so it's particularly nice for extending the season. So, it's etymology or wherever it came from, whatever they call that in plants. They're not real sure, maybe. And then in our Permaculture for Beginners by Carrie Mitchell, the next section is under, in Chapter 1, Native Plants, Pests, and Predators, Bacteria. The most populous creature in soil, these single-celled organisms can perform all manner of chemical miracles. They can exchange DNA to overcome problems. They create an adhesive substance that plants feed on. They can capture atmospheric nitrogen. And in short, they are vital servants of plant nutrition. And I would encourage you to learn all you can about particularly plants that have the nitrogen-fixing bacteria root nodules on them. All your beans, peas, and clovers. And there's other plants too that will put nitrogen right out of the air, right into the soil. Okay, let's see. And yesterday, we didn't read the last two sentences in the paragraph. So let's start with that. Let's just start with chapter 1 and section 6 instead of section 7, which is all aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Believe this and you will be free. Only God can establish this solution, and this faith is His gift. So use His gift, which is to sort out what's a dream, which you're going to wake up from, which is unreal, and let it happily guide you. Perfect love casts out fear. That's quote right out of 1 John chapter 4, verse 16 through 21 is what I encourage you to read if you want to go back and look at that. But that's actually verse 18. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love, but only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. And then it went on to say, which we didn't read yesterday, believe this and you will be free. Only God can establish this solution, and this faith is His gift. Now we're ready for distortions of miracle impulses. But since we're returning to this, let's just take a minute right here. Since this is such a good thing to keep in mind, let's just see if we can remember. Yesterday we said, my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. And with that tune, we had all aspects of fear are untrue because they do not exist at the creative level and therefore do not exist at all. To whatever extent you are willing to submit your beliefs to this test, to that extent are your perceptions corrected. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. In sorting out the false from the true, the miracle proceeds along these lines. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. Only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. It's a dream. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. Only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that to our memory again, particularly since we forgot read that last sentence there, or two sentences. Okay, now let's look at our next distortions of miracle impulses. Your distorted perceptions produce a dense cover over miracle impulses, making it hard for them to reach your own awareness. The confusion of miracle impulses with physical impulses is a major perceptual distortion. Physical impulses are misdirected miracle impulses. And the way I think of that is that your initial thought of anything in this world is a God-conscious thought, because you're a creation of God. But then it gets filtered through your maze of how can I say it, of incorrect, dark, vulnerable thoughts, and gets turned around into something. But look at the source and you'll be able to find the truth. You'll find, and that's when you're looking at others, just always look at the first initial thought that's underneath whatever's going on in their world. Whatever they believe, see the truth in them, because there's always an initial inspiration that was God consciousness. So physical impulses are misdirected miracle impulses, or misdirected love impulses. All real pleasures come from doing God's will. This is because not doing it is a denial of self. Denial of self results in illusions, while correction of the error brings release from it. Do not deceive yourself into believing that you can relate in peace to God or to your brothers with anything external. Child of God, paragraph 2. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. Child of God, you were created to create the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Do not forget this. The love of God for a little while must still be expressed through one body to another, because vision is so dim. You can use your body best to help you enlarge your perception so you can achieve real vision, of which the physical eye is incapable. Learning to do this is the body's only true usefulness. 3. Fantasy is a distorted form of vision. Fantasies of any kind are distortions because they always involve twisting perception into unreality. Actions that stem from distortions are literally the reactions of those who know not what they do. Fantasy is an attempt to control reality according to false needs. Twist reality in any way and you are perceiving destructively. Fantasies are a means of making false associations and attempting to obtain pleasure from them. But although you can perceive false associations, you can never make them real except to yourself. You believe in what you make. If you offer miracles, you will be equally strong in your belief in them. The strength of your conviction will then sustain the belief of the miracle receiver. Fantasies become totally unnecessary. Fantasies become, or unreality. Fantasies become totally unnecessary as the wholly satisfying nature of reality becomes apparent to both giver and receiver. Reality is lost through usurpation, which produces tyranny. As long as a single slave remains to walk the earth, your release is not complete. And the word lost and slave are in quotes because they're really not lost and they're really not slaves. But they can believe they are and fulfill that and play that role, which if they would submit to this test, they would awaken from it. Perfect love casts out fear. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. That's the acid test for waking. Is there any fear involved? If it's not perfect love, then there's an element of fear. And that's an unreality, because your reality is the beautiful, the good, and the holy. The miracle. So see the miracle. Complete restoration of the sonship is the only goal of the miracle-minded. Paragraph 4. This is a course in mind training. All learning involves attention and study at some level. Some of the latter parts of the course rest too heavily on these earlier sections not to require their careful study. You will also need them for preparation. Without this, you may become much too fearful of what is to come to make constructive use of it. However, as you study these earlier sections, you will begin to see some of the implications that will be amplified later on. And the last paragraph of this section, 5. A solid foundation is necessary because of the confusion between fear and awe to which I have already referred, and which is often made. I have said that awe is inappropriate in connection with the sons of God because you should not experience awe in the presence of your equals. However, it was also emphasized that awe is proper in the presence of your Creator. I have been careful to clarify my role in the atonement without either over or understating it. I am also trying to do the same with yours. I have stressed that awe is not an appropriate reaction to me because of our inherent equality. Some of the latter steps in this course, however, involve a more direct approach to God Himself. It would be unwise to start on these steps without careful preparation, or awe will be confused with fear, and the experience will be more traumatic than beatific. Healing is of God in the end. The means are being carefully explained to you. Revelation may occasionally reveal the end to you, but to reach it, the means are needed. And that's why we want to do our workbook lesson every day. That's the means for reaching this place. That, we have a little offering here. Perfect love casts out fear. If fear exists, then there is not perfect love. But only perfect love exists. If there is fear, it produces a state that does not exist. But to really get your head wrapped around it and use it, you need to go into the silence and do the practices as He teaches us to do. And you'll be able to actually use this in a very meaningful way as time progresses. Our lesson today is a good example for that. Let's just take a quick review of our lesson today. I see nothing as it is now. And today we're going to, these exercises for which 3 or 4 practice periods are sufficient involve looking about you and applying the idea for the day to whatever you see, remembering the need for its indiscriminate application, and the essential rule of excluding nothing. For example, I do not see this, and then just look around, this post as it is now. And begin with things that are nearest you and then extend the range outward. I do not see that horse as it is now. It is emphasized again that while complete inclusion should not be attempted, specific exclusion must be avoided. Be sure you are honest with yourself in making this distinction. You may be tempted to obscure it. All right, so one thing is like another as far as the exercises are concerned. And you might do one of your 1 minutes that we're to do 3 or 4 times today. Is it 3 or 4? Is that what he said? I just read it. Let's just make sure. I told you right. I don't want to say something that's incorrect. 3 or 4 practice periods. Okay, and just for a minute or so. Okay, so why don't you go ahead and do it for a minute while I'm singing. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I do not see this book as it is now. I do not see this. I do not see that tree as it is now. I do not see that. Fill in the blank. as it is now. I do not see this now. I do not see it as it is now. I do not see that as it is now. I do not see that as it is now. Fill in the blank. I do not see that as it is now. I do not see that as it is now. I do not see that as it is now. I do not see that as it is now. I do not see this. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. I see nothing as it is now. And I looked up the word for Portuguese for peace, and it's very similar, probably a little different pronunciation, but I wasn't able to sense the subtle difference. I'm sure a Spanish person would tell the difference, or a Portuguese person, but it's paz, P-A-Z, paz. So in Portuguese, we say paz, peace. I see nothing as it is now, paz.